And so I'm proud today to be able to announce what will be a focal point of the next legislative session, a legislative proposal which we're calling the Combating Violence, Disorder, and Looting and Law Enforcement Protection Act, that will probably be the boldest and most comprehensive piece of legislation to address these issues anywhere in the country. And there's a number of things that we'll be doing. We are going to impose criminal penalties for violent or disorderly assemblies, and that'll be a third-degree felony. We will also require a felony if you incapacitate any of the roadways. We see people take over interstates. That is absolutely hazardous. It's not fair to motorists who may get caught up in that, and so that will be unacceptable. Also, we have a prohibition on destroying or toppling any type of public property, including monuments. That's not the way to go about it, and we will hold you accountable. Also have a prohibition on harassing innocent people in public accommodations. You see these videos of these innocent people eating dinner, and you have these crazed lunatics just screaming at them and intimidating them on a public accommodation. You're not going to do that here in the state of Florida. And we're also going to use RICO liability to anyone who organizes or funds a violent or disorderly assembly. And if you look at some of the people who've been involved in this violence, these are people that will come from all across the country. If there's any type of issue, they all of a sudden show up in all these places. We're going to figure out who's organizing and who's funding that and hold them accountable. But what you have to have is clear and predictable penalties. I look at what goes on in Portland, and they'll have people, they'll arrest them. These are all scraggly looking, Antifa types. They get their mugshot taken, and then they get released. And it's like a carousel. On and on it goes. That's not going to happen here in Florida. If you are involved in a violent or disorderly assembly and you harm somebody, if you throw a brick and hit a police officer, you're going to jail. And there's going to be a mandatory minimum jail sentence of at least 6 months for anyone who strikes a police officer, either with a weapon or a projectile. And we're also not going to simply let people back out onto the street. So if you are in custody for one of these offenses relating to a violent or disorderly assembly, you're not getting bail before your first appearance. And then there's a rebuttable presumption against bail after that. We also have offense enhancements, and so if you do throw an object during a violent or disorderly assembly, that will be an enhanced penalty, as well as assault or battery of a law enforcement officer during one of these violent or disorderly assemblies. And if you are from another state and you come to participate in one of these violent or disorderly assemblies, you're going to have extra penalties imposed on you as well. But that's not enough. We have to understand that there's more that needs to be done. So we have a number of initiatives designed to protect citizens and taxpayers. One, we are not going to permit localities to defund the police. If you defund the police, then the state is going to defund any grant or aids coming to you. And that applies to any municipality or local government throughout the state of Florida. We also understand that victims need to be compensated. And so if you have a situation where a local government is grossly negligent, where they abdicate their responsibility to protect people and property, like we saw in some of these cities throughout the United States, we will waive sovereign immunity and let you get compensated by suing those local governments. You also will not be eligible for state benefits or employment if you get convicted of participating in a violent or disorderly assembly. And we believe that that's something that makes sense from a taxpayer perspective. So this is a very robust package. I think what it's saying is we are not going to let Florida go down the road that some of these other places have gone. And if you can do this and get away with it, then you're going to have more people do it. If you do it and you know that there's going to be a ton of bricks rained down on you, then I think that people will think twice about engaging in this type of conduct. And ultimately, safe communities are the foundation of everything else that we care about as Floridians. Having good schools. Well, if you don't have a safe community, you probably aren't going to have good schools. Having a good economy. Probably not going to have a great economy if you don't have safe neighborhoods. And so everything flows from public safety. Florida has done a great job over many decades in reducing crime and we're going to continue to do that. But I think you look other places around the country who've gone in a different direction. You are seeing crime increase. You're certainly seeing murders increase in some of these, what I would determine, more lawless jurisdictions, and we can't let that happen. Every Floridian needs to be able to live in a secure environment, and I can tell you, we'll back up the law enforcement because we know that they're going to be the first one on the call when somebody is in jeopardy. And I also think it's important we have the leadership of the incoming House and Senate, and they're going to support this, and they'll have a few comments to make. But I think it's important that every single person running for office in the state of Florida this year, whether you're running for the House, whether you're running for the Senate, you have an obligation to let the voters know where you stand on this bill. Are you going to stand with victims? Are you going to stand with law enforcement? Are you going to stand with law and order and safe communities? Or are you going to stand with the mob? That's the choice that each person running for office is going to have to make. I know where I stand, and I know where the leaders of our legislature stand, so it's an honor for me to be able to introduce. They'll both come up and say a few words, so we'll first introduce the incoming Senate President.